Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Go, joined as always by Brax.
Yeah.
And today we want to continue our little special by talking about what makes endgame content in MMORPGs appealing for us. And we have a very clear divide here as to what topic each of us is going to cover. Brax is going to talk about the PvP section and everything related to that, simply because he is a PvPer and I am not. And I am talking more about the PvE side of stuff because I absolutely do not like PvP. And that's why we're going to have to specialize in those things. And we also want to bring up something that might not be associated to either of those game modes, simply because they are so unique and bring their own flair to whatever game they are in, that they aren't the typical I'm fighting against monsters or I'm fighting against players thing. So, to start off first, as our first game we ever talked about was World of Warcraft. And World of Warcraft was known for its huge conquest between Alliance and Horde. It was obviously designed to have a huge PvP part in it as well. And Brax, you played a lot of PvP in World of Warcraft. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I met you.
yeah, I mean,
Then we started doing raids and mythics and stuff like that.
So
it was fun.
it was fun, yeah. It was fun until you stopped healing. I'm not forgetting that from the last episode.
But then it was fun just for me. So
Of course. So, let's start off with a very interesting question. Why do you prefer the PvP in World of Warcraft over its PvE component?
It's basically it's a really simple answer, and that's because it's so. So PvE, you know, and you know when you go into a raid, you know exactly what kind of spell is the boss is going to use and when he's going to use it, right? So you know exactly how you're going to be positioning on a certain level or a boss or whatever it is, and you know exactly what everybody has to do, and you know you put put people to work. With PvP, there is some tactics, but it can be very surprising to you in what people can imagine in the game, like during the fight, right? They can overpower you just by overthinking. I mean, you know, how can I say that? Tactically manipulating you, let's say that, right? Sorry, Siri went mad. Sorry.
All good.
So yeah, they can typically bring a better game, you know, or trick you in a way or something like that. So you got to be a little bit more on your toes, in a matter of speaking. So that's the part that I really like, because it's so, you know, it's not all planned out. You have to think a little bit more. I mean, that's at least on my side, you know. Whilst PvE for me was basically, you know, me just sitting here and just, okay, 3, 2, 2, okay, move to the right, 2, 2. That was for me, right? It was, I don't know, it's a little too boring for me. That's, you know, maybe I'm weird like that, but you know, it is what it is.
No,
I did play
fine.
a lot of PvP. I did play a lot of PvP. I haven't played it in a while now, but yeah, I did a lot of it before I came into your guild back in the day. Then we started playing PvE. I mean, I think at the start when I was in your guild, I was still playing PvP for a little while,
I guess.
until you guys got me into PvE, and we started playing the mythics and the raids and stuff like that. So it was fun as well, because I left my ass off most of the time, because you know we were fucking up a lot.
Yes, we were.
So yeah, it was fun. You know, it was still fun. But you know, the aspect of it, and in the evenings while we were doing the raids and stuff like that, I was a little bit sleepy. And PvP always got me on my toes. I was like, you know, looking at the screen. Okay, damn it, I gotta counter that. I gotta do this. I missed like a half a second that I screwed up. It's a little bit of those kinds of things that actually brought me into the PvP aspect of it. To be honest,
I mean,
and the easier way of getting in. Let's say that. So if I didn't have the gear, I would still go into a normal battleground. Nobody was pissing me off in there. Let's say that. I couldn't get into many guilds because I didn't have proper PvE gear. Let's say that, right? Or the right eye level, whatever it was, right? And they basically were just, nope, we don't need that, because you don't have the gear. Maybe you have the skills, but you don't have the gear, so we're not interested, So that kind of thing kind of pissed me off, And the PvP guilds I was in, they didn't care. It was like, okay, let's go do like a random battleground. Let's see what you're made of. Let's think about it. And then I got some coaching from a friend in Norway, I think. Yeah, for the warlock in PvPs, in the PvP aspect of it, it was fun. I mean, they took me in. I did RBGs, I did arenas, I did every kind of different kind of PvP setting. It was fun, and nobody was so pissy about it, except if we were losing and we knew exactly why we were losing. So that's a different kind of thing. But yeah, much more interesting to me.
The two things you actually mentioned that are somewhat typical for almost all PvE content, not even in World of Warcraft specifically, just in general, is you have the PvE content being very predictable. You know exactly when what's gonna happen, and the fact that World of Warcraft has such a heavy usage of add-ons that can basically take that job away from you as well. So you don't have to remember what spell is gonna come out and how you actually deal with it. It just basically tells you what you have to do. Makes the stuff a lot more predictable and for a lot more people boring. There are other sites coming into PvE content that make those things actually interesting for those people again, and funnily enough, those things are most of the time competitive, so in some sort PvP related. And the other thing is there is a barrier of entry to PvE content, which is done by gear or done by other things and other games. Like, remember the old attunement quests you had to do in Classic and Burning Crusade? So you actually had to do a long quest chain to unlock certain types of PvE content, whether it be a dungeon or a raid. And you simply did not have that. You could, I think the earliest you could queue into Battlegrounds was level 10. You had this little twink bracket or alt bracket, whatever you want to call it, from 10 to 19, where people just got the most overpowered gear and blasted you away when you just went to your little battleground at level 17 as a rogue, and you were like, yeah, I'm gonna have fun. Nope. Oh, by the way, before I'm getting slammed for this, twink is actually the preferred term for people in Germany to describe an alt character. I know what other meaning twink has. I'm not meaning that. I'm meaning exactly an alternate character in an MMORPG. Sorry for definitions, Google. Not my fault. So that's done. So the problem with the barrier of entry is you have to have it at some point, simply because it's all a numbers game in PvE content, and a lot more things come into play when it comes to actually completing that PvE content, mostly because you have more people to deal with. I mean, the highest amount of people in the battlegrounds can be 40v40 in epic battlegrounds, for example, in World of Warcraft. Other games have other numbers, obviously, but it can happen that you can queue for PvP content in an MMORPG and never ever have like a predetermined teammate that you play with, or you go into a game solo and you have, I don't know, a good example would be Guild Wars 2 with its world versus world content, which is basically server against server, and there are a lot of people just dedicated to be solo roaming around the map, capping towers and castles and supply camps on their own, and they actually never play with anyone else. If they happen to come across another player and they have the same goal, fine, but that's just coincidental. They do not plan that ahead. So you can just jump straight in and have a good time if you want to. When it comes to PvE content, you really can't, simply because you always have a group that you have to coordinate and play with at some degree. The more difficult it gets, the more coordination you need to have. And then if you don't meet numbers, meaning DPS checks, healing checks, or simply having enough health as a tank to survive certain hits, you're done. So you need that gear to complete that content, and you simply do not have that in PvP content. So when you said those two things that you are disliking about PvE content, having experienced a lot of different PvP games, not just simply MMORPGs, simply because there are certain things, certain similarities to every PvP moment or every PvP game mode in every game. And you compare all of those things to, let's say, the one that you played the most, World of Warcraft. Is there something that you absolutely like and want other games to copy from World of Warcraft? And is there something that you dislike about World of Warcraft's PvP content?
Oh, the PvP content. The main thing that I dislike, they didn't do much on the variability of the battlegrounds. For example, it's all the same stuff over and over and over and over and over and over again. There's nothing new there. That's one thing that I dislike, basically. I think the most fun one for me was Arathi Basin. For example, I liked that one. It's very fast-paced in a way, and that kind of gameplay is really interesting to me. I really disliked the AV thing, like 40 man stuff. That was a vast place.
Oh yeah.
You have to take like 10 minutes to get to the other side, which is half the battle. And that kind of pisses me off in a way. So they should put like something that's interesting and a little bit more fast-paced, like well put together. Maybe a new zone to put in there, because they're basically just rehashing stuff. Maybe let's do, I don't know, Arathi Basin, right? Whatever, and just change the houses, make them look different.
I mean, they redid Arathi Basin, I think, for an event or something, where you could grind the old Arathi Basin out, which was present in Classic. So yeah, it's also just rehashed.
I mean, that's one thing, that I didn't like. Just the same kind of shit over and over and over again. There should be, playing around with different kinds of modes. Not just capture the flag and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. Capture the flag is good. It's hard, but it's good. I kind of like that. I liked the Wrath of the Lich King kind of stuff, where you need to go from base to base, to take over. What's it called again?
Wind of Grasp. Was it Wind of
Grasp?
Yeah, the big one with the tanks and the siege engines and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. That's kind of cool, And the other one, that's the Horde and the Alliance place, that you have to, which one gets there first and gets all the bases with it. And takes over the main castle, whatever it is. It's also with the catapults.
The game mode is called King of the Hill. So that's the game mode.
Yeah.
So basically anything King of the Hill related.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. But I would like for them to implement the game mode that they had from New World, which is kind of cool. And they have like those attacks on certain parts of the map. Like certain parts of the map are controlled by certain factions. Let's say that, right? And when you're alliance to a certain faction, and at a certain level, you know, you have to queue up so you can go battle the other faction or take over their town or their territory. This is kind of cool, you know, and which is basically when you go onto a map, like I don't know, for example, if you're in Elwyn Forest, right? And what's the horde part of that is basically like down south, right? As I remember.
No, down south is Duskwood, but no, Elven Forest doesn't have a real connection. Like the only thing relatable
like,
to it is like.
Okay,
like
let's say if you're in Undercity, right, and you want to go, the north is controlled by the elves, which is basically horde territory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go, you know, at a certain level, you invite people in, or they join in or sign in, whatever it is, and the guild leader or the guy that's putting up the event is basically choosing, I need this one, I need this one, I need that one, and you just go in, you just go. You know, destroy Silver Moon City and take it over. You know, that's basically something really wild that could be implemented. Would be really fucking fun to do in World of Warcraft, if you ask me.
Yep.
Because it gives that scarcity kind of mindset. You know, imagine yourself being an elf. You know, your city's been taken down. You know, you can't go home anymore. So that's kind of you know, interesting to see if you ask me. You know, those guys should be, you know, getting up an army and getting them back and getting their own city back. It would be way more interesting, for example, for Battle for Azeroth to happen. You know, than, you know, just queue up for a battleground. You know, that's kind of, yeah.
I mean, okay. Battle for Azeroth had a PvP mode, a new one, which was the Island Expeditions.
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
Yeah,
it was shit. It was shit. Oh my god, it was bad. Oh,
it was
horrible.
It was, that I hated that actually. I did it. I did it at first, maybe twice or 3 times or something. I was like, okay, this is fucking this is shit. I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. You know, and I just went for the classic stuff. But it would be really nice if in Battle for Azeroth they would implement this kind of fighting, you know? So it would basically be, you know, Elwyn Forest grouping up and going up to Undercity, fucking killing everything. They actually did that, but going more north, you know, and hitting Silver Moon, whatever it is, and they retake the whole continent, you know, and stuff. It's way more interesting, you know, that you need to go and actually fight back on the real map, not queuing up for shit, if you know what I mean.
I know.
So New World has this kind of thing. I actually queued up for some, but I never got the chance to go in there, but I saw it happen on other people's streams. Yeah, I didn't get the chance because it was always at 3 a.m.
Yeah, when people are asleep, you can do that stuff.
Yeah, when people, I wasn't able to do it because I was sleeping at the time, you know, and it's always this stupid kind of scheduling in that game. I don't know why, but it was, you know. So yeah, that would be really fucking interesting for me, even for an end game kind of thing, you know, reach max level to a certain point. Of skill or whatever it is. I don't know. What was it again? A rating, right? And arena and stuff like that. If you get to a certain point, I mean, a certain rating, I'd say 1K, which is not hard to do, you know? You get to that point and then you can go, you know, and join the battles for Azeroth, basically, you know, and just start hitting territories in a way. So in that way, they would be really cool that you would attack certain places that are basically abandoned. Nobody goes there, not even to level, right?
Yeah.
Because it's part of the maps are basically just, it's there and that's it, you know? Nobody goes there. I haven't seen one person in probably since Cataclysm that went 1,000 Needles, for example. I wasn't there like for years. You know, I don't even fly by it. So that's kind of... It will also be a really interesting place to fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the verticality to it.
Yeah, and since it's underwater now, as I remember, right?
Yep. For example,
it would be really cool if they would implement like some kind of naval battle as well, which would be even better. You know, there's certain things that you can take out of other games that would make it extremely interesting. you know, maybe from Sea of Thieves even, you know, go into that mode, jump on a ship, you know, and just do the stuff, the motions, you know, shoot your cannons, whatever it is, you know, it would be nuts. It would be interesting, you
So
know. Those kinds of things, probably, in my opinion, would be really good and really interesting to implement. But overall, the simple stuff that is basically just rehashed and remade. I mean, the houses are remade and stuff like that. I hate that. You know, just come up with something new, please. You know, give us something new, something more interesting. It's not so it's not always the same. It's not always capture the flag or whatever it is. You know, it's I think what is it, like 3 modes, something like that.
basically, I mean, you have like the
Yeah,
typical capture point thing, then you have King of the Hill,
yeah.
I guess, and then you have those uh, epic battlegrounds,
And
which is like a siege thing. I mean, you have capture the flag as well, so you might as well just count 4. So I mean, yeah, but the epic battlegrounds, they can't really be defined into a category, I guess. I mean, it's
yeah,
just simply storming the base and taking it or killing the leader. I mean, other
I mean,
games
it's
had
not.
those game modes as well before. The most notably one would be Guild Wars, with like having 2 guilds fighting each other, with having like bases to conquer for like checkpoints and stuff when they respawn and
Mm,
getting a bonus. And in the end, you have a huge base with the NPC guild leader who is who has to be killed by the other guild to win the game. So that was a game mode heavily influenced by other things. Like you had Ultima Online, for example. You had games like that before, where stuff like that was a thing. Not really as an official game mode, but it existed in some sort of way. And Guild Wars just basically announced how they are gonna actually implement their name into the game, which was like this Guild Wars game mode, which was pretty cool, and it's not present
mm.
right now in Guild Wars 2. Nobody knows why, but yeah, about the game modes you mentioned, there are a few things that I just came up with that might be really cool in theory, but in practical sense might be really difficult to get over. For
Yeah,
example, just take for example the island expeditions, and imagine
yeah. Okay.
you have this huge undiscovered land between Zandalar and Kolteras. So basically the Horde
Yeah,
side and the Alliance side. And those islands would be in the middle. And you have like a huge island in the middle, and both sides start from their side and they conquer each island. And you have
yeah,
to get to those islands before the other faction does, and take them or defend them or retake them. So that would make for an interesting dynamic. While you have like, while you just imagine it as a square, and you have a lot of dots in that square, counting out as the islands, and you see, okay, Alliance is moving north, Horde is moving south, and all of a sudden Alliance moves to the island right next to the first island the Horde conquered. And what they're gonna do? Gonna fight on the next island, or they're gonna retreat and defend their base, or
yeah.
are they gonna advance even further, trying to get away from the Alliance? That would be make for a really interesting dynamic. And if you would go even one step further and take the naval combat, which has been done in an MMORPG, they could just simply copy that system, because it wasn't that bad actually, and it was designed from the get-go to be a PvP-centered MMORPG, and that was ArcAge. Okay, fine enough, ArcAge had a lot of issues with pay to win and its basic game functions, like the work flow or work points, labor points they were called, where you had to pay to extend your labor points so you could do more life skills and stuff like that, which was ridiculous. But in general, the combat was absolutely fine with how many classes you can build together and experiment, and you had actually very good naval combat. And if you just, for example, bring out the sea fights into World of Warcraft and have those land fights, you would make for a very unique concept, a concept that is currently present in one of the highest funded Kickstarter games ever, and it's, just help me out here, it's Star, something with Star, no Starfighter, not Starfighter. It's like Citizen Star?
I have
Something
it on
like
the tip of
that.
my tongue. I just can't.
Yeah, I really need to look that up. But basically, they have that component as well. EVE Online tried it as well, with having the huge space fights and having actual first-person shooter combat on the planets that guilds or corporations or whatever they're called are conquered. Have conquered. So having this mixture of actually having guilds cooperating with like one part is doing naval combat, the other part is doing like the land combat, trying to defend the base or attack it. You can bring out siege engines as well because they did work pretty well in Wrath of the Lich King when they brought it out, but the problem was there were so few attempts of making vehicular combat good and they failed horribly that people just take those little moments and completely forget how all the other moments were actually really good. And the most prominent example would be the Oculus and the Nexus. The Oculus as a dungeon, which was really horrible because the verticality made navigating that dungeon really difficult, and the Nexus was like a just really boring boss fight. You had 3 dragons, each one had like 2 or 3 abilities, and as a tank you just pressed 1 and you win. This was really boring. But then you had Ulduar with the first boss and the towers and the Flame Leviathan, which was really good. It was really well done. So good, it is really weird to just condemn a feature which was made a really like a promising, like a leading feature for an expansion. You even had it on the backside of the CD case when you bought World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King. It was announced like that.
I still have the original cases, man.
My dad has his original cases from Classic and Burning Crusade as well.
I have a Classic, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King. I think the first one, the digital one that was bought that I didn't have it like physically was
Brenner probably.
Battle for Azeroth, I think, or Legion.
Legion's. I think Legion still had a case, but I think they ditched the case in Battle for Azeroth. I'm not really sure about that since I always bought them digitally.
Even when they were digital, I bought the case. So I was always
a collector.
I wanted that, and since I stopped playing in the middle of it, I just fuck it. I'm just gonna buy the digital version of it, and that's it. I'm good. But yeah, the Oculus. Oh man, that dungeon is just it gives me PTSD.
I did it twice in my life. Twice. I did it twice. And both times were so horrible, but I can completely understand now why people immediately leave the dungeon when they queue into it. So yeah.
It's just, when I got into it, and I was there with a friend, the guy from Norway that I was mentioning that taught me a lot about PvP stuff, right? And we went to do like, let's just break the pattern, not playing PvP, let's go for a dungeon or whatever. And we queued up and we got Oculus back then, and it was like, nope. And I left, and he was laughing his ass off for the next 15 minutes. And I was like, yeah, I knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew you were gonna be leaving. It's like, oh yeah, well, I hate that dungeon. I really do. I don't know what they were thinking. That's just horrible,
Just to bounce off some other cool things I've seen in other games, and you probably haven't by now. So the first thing would be there was a game mode. I think there was a PvP section for it in WildStar, where you had a dungeon that was made as like Takeshi's Castle thing. You had like really funny challenges to complete, and they were most of the time not combat related, and if they were super funny. Like it was really hard not to laugh your ass off while fighting a Coca-Cola vending machine. Like a giant Coca-Cola vending machine. It was obviously not Coca-Cola, but I mean, you had red cans rolling towards you, and you had to run up a hill and fight a fighting vending machine. You had to jump onto pigs that had wings and they were flying around, and they were shaped as a cube. They had a really funny name in German. They were called Schwürfel, which is like Schwein, pig, and Würfel, cube, as one word. So it was really funny, and you had really funny voice acting. And you could compete in those challenges as well, because they were measured by points, and you get the most loot at the end when you had the highest points. So it was not about just completing the dungeon as fast as possible, and getting loot from the bosses, you had to actually get those points, which was really, really funny. And you had other stuff like you had those realm versus realm things, which is not present in World of Warcraft right now, or server against server thing. And that is something that people might enjoy. It's more on a grand scale, but you could end up with like battles of 500 against 500, which was never there in World of Warcraft by now. I mean, probably in the old days for Classic when you had Terran Mill. Yeah.
We actually did with the old guild before the guild that I mean your guild, or your former guild. I mean our former guild, let's say that. I was in a PvP guild, as I mentioned, and we did a lot of world PvP. And that was like us recruiting other guilds as well. So it was like, I think at some point it was like 5 of the guilds from the same server, from the Alliance side. We were Alliance back then. We just decided, fuck this, we're gonna be hitting Orgrimmar, And you know how people are on both sides, right? So Horde is attacking us, everybody come to Stormwind, whatever it is, and they start grouping up, and that's the setting that's kind of cool for the idea that I mentioned before, right? So hitting certain parts of the map would be fucking amazing. So that was so good. I think it was like 100 people on one side battling. So and the fighting was going on for probably about 3 hours, I think. When we hit Orgrimmar at some point, that was horrible. That was like, horrible massacre. A massive massacre. It was so fun, but so terrifying at the same time. and the computer was freezing all over, because of all of the spells and everything. But that was so damn cool, to play. It was interesting because we were always thinking they wouldn't let us in, so we had to try and do, different ideas, whatever it was. So we sent one group on one side to get into the other doors and the other one on the back and stuff like it was fun. It was really fun. So that's something that they should look at, because there was, I don't know how it's now in World of Warcraft, but back then the world PvP thing was very active when I was playing actively PvP. So that's one thing that they should consider, basically, that people want to do that in a way, because if they wouldn't do it, they didn't want to do it, they wouldn't even come to Stormwind or Orgrimmar to defend,
Yep.
But it was fun, so why the fuck not,
There is a reason why world PvP in World of Warcraft, for example, is really not what it was today, and that is an issue that we're going to talk about in a second. One last thing, and that is probably the most interesting thing you have missed so far, and that is a game mode from Star Wars: The Old Republic. And it's a PvP game mode, so that's why it's going to be interesting for you. So,
didn't get there yet, so yeah.
You know Jabba the Hutt from the movies, like this big slug-like thing who is like he's in the cartel and he's bad. There is a game mode called Hutt Ball. So basically, like a ball game mode from those huts. It's basically sci-fi rugby. That's what it is. No, American football isn't as violent as rugby, so yeah, it's rugby. 2 things to consider. You need to have a ball, and that ball gives you a very bad influence on you, but you have to get it to the goal of the opposite team. And the other thing is, don't kick the ball.
Yeah.
You know why they don't kick the ball?
Why?
Imagine how a Hutt looks like. Does he look like he has feet?
Oh yeah.
You actually have the skill to kick the ball. It is like a community thing to not do it. Just don't. Just throw the ball. Throwing is fine. Don't kick it. Don't kick it. Yeah, that's actually a really funny game mode. I mean, it's basically capture the flag in the end anyways, but you can pass that to teammates, which you cannot do with a flag.
Yeah.
So it brings kind of like a team play element to it, which is kind of funny. So, I mean, why not? Just why not? It is really, really funny to have a ball. It's cool. It's cool looking as well.
Just when you mentioned the ball, it actually reminded me of the battleground in World of Warcraft. What was it again?
The Temple of
The four
Kotmogu.
balls that you have on each side, and there's like a fighting pit in the middle.
Yeah, the Temple of
The
Kotmogu. The
that
Mr.
one, yeah,
Pandaria one.
that one. You can actually pass that as well to other players. It was like, oh shit, they're gonna kill me.
Yeah, but then
Just throw
but
it.
that is only about holding the ball for as long as possible
Yeah,
to gain
that's
points. It's not
basically
like
it.
bringing
Yeah,
it
that's
into
basically
base,
it.
which was I
Which is
mean
kind of,
it's
I
cool.
mean, interesting concept. I actually liked that battleground. I liked, because it was totally different from everything else that was
Yeah,
happening at the
I
time.
mean it
So
was funny. Yeah,
it was kind of cool because it was always, uh, the tactic was always either shoot them from the inside and huddle them in the tight space and
yeah,
down below, or try to uh, pull them into the pit and just murder the hell out of them.
yep. Definite grips.
That's basically the whole tactic.
Yep,
That was it.
yeah. But
But it was fun.
about the world PvP thing,
Yeah.
there is an issue that arises as soon as you try to combine PvP into PvE or vice versa, PvE into PvP. And
Yeah.
it's almost as bad as or as strict as having like the state and the church divided. I mean, it's obviously not as big of a deal when it comes to a video game, but let PvP be PvP and let PvE be PvE. Do not try to merge elements from other game modes into the other one. It will not favor. It will not play out in favor for the community, for example, and it will not play out in favor for the developers when the backlash of the community comes. There are two prime examples for this. The first one is, and you remember that as well, Trial of the Crusader and Wrath of the Lich King the Raid was famous, infamous for having a PvP fight inside a PvE raid. And it required completely different thinking. Stuff like having stunts, getting stunned all the time, getting perma-stunned, perma-CC'd. All those things happened. You had dedicated healers on the other team, and it was really difficult for people at first to actually finish this fight because it was not seen in a raid environment yet. It was seen in, I think, the Magus Terrace in the Burning Crusade, which was a dungeon where stuff like that happened, but on a smaller scale. It was like a 3 against 5 fight, and the 3 opponents did have characteristics that you would see in PvP content, like stunning you, CCing you, healing. So stuff like that was new. And it was completely new in Burning Crusade, but they took it to the next level in Wrath of the Lich King. If you take that from the other side, you have PvP content, and the world PvP as it stands right now gives you a bonus to almost everything you do when you're out in the world. And depending on which faction you are, the bonus is bigger or lower, and it is an incentive to PvP while you do PvE content. So people don't want that. I mean, you have a lot of people in world PvP right now who simply do not care about world PvP. They're just there for the bonus that it gives, and it kind of ruins the fun, I guess, for world PvPers. I mean, world PvP died down anyways with all the changes they made over the years. And now just imagine, I mean, you are the PvPer here. Just imagine you run into a group of people, like 3 to 5 people, they're questing together and they have world PvP on. And they simply don't fight back, for example. I mean, it's cool to beat them the first time, maybe the second time, but the third time it gets boring because they do not fight back. You always win 1v5, so it's not an interesting battle for you. And it's simply not interesting for anyone else as well. So you have like a bunch, like a real big bunch of PvE players sitting inside your PvP game mode, and they don't contribute to that PvP environment. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think it should always be heavily divided into making it 2 very specific categories and don't have them overlap.
But you have to give them variability, if you know what I mean. I mean, the PvE part of World of Warcraft got a lot more variability than the PvP side.
Obviously,
example.
yes.
Yeah, so you have to give the PvPers, at least a bit more focus. Let's say that, because they when they started implementing heavily in the PvP side of it or the PvE side of it, whatever it was, right? Whenever it was, if they did the PvP side of it, right, they lost a lot of PvP players.
Yep.
Right? When they did the PvP side, they lost a lot of PvE players. So you got to balance it out, like you said. But more or less, in my opinion, and just what I saw, was basically they did implement way more into PvE over the years than in PvP. And the PvP side of it kind of died out, and maybe that's why the world PvP also went to shit, because players just stopped playing or weren't interested in it, because the PvE side started to grow. And it's the same problem, for example, for different game though, but Sea of Thieves, right, which I played a lot of, and the PvP side of it was a massive part for me, and I did arenas a lot, for example, and they basically just removed arenas. So the PvP players they're gone. Most of them, like 90% of them. So it kind of became uninteresting, because a lot of PvE players, they just run, they don't want to fight, just like you said it, right?
Yep.
So it's not interesting for the PvP players just chasing them down for the next 3 hours, it's uninteresting, so they leave, which is kind of, every game should implement some kind of balance between those two groups, if they want to keep the player base, definitely. But overall in World of Warcraft, I would put way more variability in the PvP side of it, because I kind of miss those things. I miss those community fights, let's say that, right, in the world. That was extremely fun. I laughed a lot, and I had some situations that I remember to this day that were really, really good and fun to remember. And those kind of days are kind of gone, which is kind of sad. But yeah, I mean, I'm speaking from the PvP part of it.
Yep.
Right?
The last very big issue that we should cover here is, and that's not exclusive to World of Warcraft, even though we talked a lot about it right now. It happens in Elder Scrolls Online, for example, as well. It happens in Guild Wars 2 as well. I haven't seen or heard about it in Star Wars: The Old Republic, which are like the biggest MMORPGs right now. Final Fantasy XIV has that to some extent as well, and that is turning a PvE environment competitive. And that is most of the time driven by the community itself and not coming directly from the game mode. The only exception right now is the scoring system for trials in Elder Scrolls Online, where you get points at the end for performance, people not dying, how fast you kill stuff, and so on and so forth. And you compete on a leaderboard against other guilds or groups doing those trials. That is coming from the game itself, but the competitive aspect from World of Warcraft is community driven. From Final Fantasy XIV, community driven. From Guild Wars 2, community driven. And it's something that is also an overlap from a PvE and PvP, but it satisfies neither of the groups. So a PvE player will not... I mean, it depends on the people. It's always subjective in the end. According to most of the backlash coming from those kind of things, I would assume that most PvE players in all those games do not enjoy the competitive aspect from it. And the PvP players simply do not enjoy that competitive aspect simply because it's not competitive for them. It's still PvE content. It doesn't matter if you do it in a time trial or running against leaderboards with points. It's not their goal. It's not their enjoyment that they're getting out of it. And
very true.
The problem is it's community standard at some point. It starts off as an idea, it becomes community standard. So people are forced to deal with whether you like it or not. And that is currently my biggest gripe I have with every game that has that kind of system in it. And for example, it is the big reason why I do not enjoy Mythic Plus in World of Warcraft. Then because it's a dungeon. I am doing PvE content. I am not a PvPer. I am not competitive. I am competitive with my own. I'm trying to improve myself as much as possible by gathering as much knowledge and skill as I can. But I do not like to compare myself against other people. Simply because I don't care what they're doing. It's their electricity, their PC, their sub fee, their game. I don't give a damn what they're doing with their time. Let them do whatever. If they want to be competitive, they will find a competitive environment to be in. If you do not care about those things and you're forced to deal with that anyways because you don't have that Radar IO score, you don't have that rating, which is now coming, or which is now in World of Warcraft as well. So you're forced to being competitive and you have to compare yourself to all the other people, and you don't like that. It's giving you're stripped of your agency. It's simply, I just want to do some dungeons. No, you can't because you don't have that score. The score shouldn't matter in the end anyways. And we could argue like for the next 2, 3, 4 hours about how those metrics don't really measure player skill. And most of the high Radar IO score players agree on that. It's really weird. It's not really a metric to measure people. But on the other games as well, it's really hard to get into that kind of PvE content because the community created another barrier of entry to the existing barriers of entry you already have. So we can go through all the games. World of Warcraft, let me just queue up for that +9 keystone. You don't have enough Radar IO score, you're declined. Okay, fine. At some point you will find a group that takes you in because they do not care about that, but most of the time you're getting declined. Okay, Elder Scrolls Online. What about your leader sports things? I mean, if you want to go into really highly competitive guild, and I'm talking about those things into a competitive environment, you're getting into a competitive environment, then people will look at those things. World of Warcraft has its competitive scene set really low when it comes to entering it, simply because you're already measured at a level 2 keystone. You're already getting measured. For Mythic Zeros, you're not getting any score or rating, but it already starts at a level 2, which is like the earliest endgame PvE content you're gonna do when you hit max level. Elder Scrolls Online doesn't have that thing unless you're gonna go really, really highly competitive. And for Final Fantasy XIV, if you want to go into the raids, nobody cares about normal raids. Those are just like story mode stuff. You just do it for maybe gearing a little bit up, but that's about it. If you want to go into Savage Rage with raids, which is the next difficulty, people will ask about your logs. How are you performing on your logs? Can you do stuff right? If not, tough luck then, gonna get some logs. I mean, yeah, it's a way of seeing how good you are, but it's also a way of comparing people to others, simply because, well, the logs will compare you and give you a percentage, how well did you do on those things. And I don't like that. I am playing PvE content. I want to slay monsters. I don't want to compete against players. If I want to compete against myself, fine, let me do that. Let me install a DPS meter and see how good I'm doing. And then I'm going to compare myself to other players in that class and see what can I improve. I don't give a damn what DPS you do in a raid or a dungeon. I don't care. I'm playing on the guild. I'm guilt tripping people most of the time. I'm trying to, at least, because it's sensible. I mean, it sounds really bad. It sounds like I'm a really horrible person, but think about it logically. Try to avoid any emotions here right now. Think about it purely logically. If you are in a group environment and you're not performing to the standard of the group that is set by all the other people, you are being dragged around your dead weight. it's not that people will call you out on that. You should see that and be like, oh shit, I'm seeing, like, I have 300 DPS in my group, they're all playing the same spec. That one is doing 10k, the other one is 9k, and I'm doing like 5k. We had like the perfect environment, why am I doing such low DPS? That should be your concern, and not like, oh, I'm getting carried, yay! No! Just improve yourself. And see that you are not contributing the same amount of effort that all the other people are contributing.
Yeah.
It sounds really horrible, but if you just think about it logically, it's fine. Just improve yourself.
It's not horrible, because the PvP side of it was the same. At least it was for me, and there's and I agree, there should be people thinking about this kind of stuff. And it was the same in a way that I went in and I wanted to heal. At the first time when I got in, I had no idea what I'm doing. Basically, I did heal some, but I was running out of mana a lot, and was like, okay, what the fuck is going on here, So I doubled down. I read a lot about the class. Went in and asked the people that were really good or on the opposite team or whatever it was, I was just asking, dude, how do you do that, can you tell me some tips and tricks? What are you doing? What kind of spec do you use? How do you, how's the rotation? Whatever it is, I remember when I started playing a priest, and I was playing discipline at the time, and we were actually in the Kotmongu thing, right? The balls and shit. So I was in there, and there was another priest there that was holy, which was unusual at the time. I don't know which expansion it was exactly, but it was unusual at the time because those kinds of the holy priests weren't as let's say, they weren't as good and in that expansion, so everybody was just writing them off as like, oh, he's gonna be shit, whatever. So when we were in there, we had the chance to beat like 3 healers in. I don't know how that happened. It's lucky, I guess. I don't know. But the guy that was the holy priest was doing insane healing, and nobody could kill him at all. And it was mind-blowing to me back then, because everybody was, oh, holy priest is shit, And I was like, asking him, I was in his DMs like for about a week or something, just asking him, dude, how the hell do you do that? You have worse gear than me, how the hell's that happening, And he told me a lot of tricks, and I tried playing around with the priest, and I got way better because of it, because I was interested in what's wrong with me, what went wrong when I was healing, what was the issue there, And I started fixing that. And it's the same in life, when I'm doing a video or something like that. When I screw up something, I actually go back and I rewatch it, and I was like, okay, how did I screw this up? How am I gonna fix this? It goes into life as well, It's just, as you said, it's logical. It's not, toxic or whatever it is. It's just the way it is, And if you're lacking behind in that kind of thing, you should think about it. No, if somebody says, man, your DPS wasn't as good, you should look into that. Don't take it as an insult, because it's not.
Never take it as an insult.
If anybody kicks you out, because you're pissing yourself, screaming, whatever it is, it's not their fault, it's your fault, you got pissed off, and they kicked you for it. It's normal. It's not something that would be oh man, they were so annoying and toxic, and no, they weren't, they just told you the truth. That's it. You just gotta accept it and go from it.
By the way,
that's it.
Just to reiterate on that specific thing, feels like I'm gonna shit on that game again, but in Final Fantasy XIV, we did a dungeon, and it was one of the earlier dungeons. We did one of the earlier dungeons, and tanks in that game have a tank stance. That's how you determine who is main tank, who is off tank. You just turn it on, you generate way more threat, or enmity as they call it in that game, and you never lose it until you turn it off, and then you're gonna have a bit of an issue. So if a tank goes in, he immediately gets that tank stance at level 10, so there's no way he can avoid that thing. And we went into the dungeon, and the tank did not turn on the tank stance. And it was really difficult for us, simply because you don't have all the tools at a low-level dungeon, because they scale you down and take away all the high-level abilities, and you're left with, like, I don't know, abilities up to level 19. And it was really difficult for the tank to keep aggro, simply because we were out-damaging him. Or the healer was just out-healing, or out putting way too much threat into it, because he had to heal us, simply because the tank wasn't holding aggro. And a friend of mine was telling him, hey, can you please turn on your tank stance? No reaction. He went on. Can you please turn on your tank stance? It makes your life easier. No reaction. Could you please turn on your tank stance? You're losing aggro all the time. You're not fighting with us, you're fighting against us on that point. No reaction. Out of that dungeon you normally takes like 15 to 20 minutes. You were in there for 45 minutes. Okay. We had told other people about how that one guy was telling the tank how to turn on it, he should turn on his tank stance. Come the next day, the friend wants to log in, he's banned for 7 days. Verbal harassment.
Oh man.
That was literally the only thing he did. He logged on, he wanted to do his daily leveling roulette, and then went offline again. So there was nothing he could have done on that day to justify the ban for verbal harassment, except that thing in that dungeon. So our guess was the tank simply reported him for verbal harassment because you don't pay my sub. That's a common phrase you hear from Final Fantasy XIV players when you try to give them advice. Don't do that. But yeah.
I mean, I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but in my opinion, you know, I see the younger generation, especially my nieces, both of them, they're that kind of mindset. You're not gonna be telling me what I'm gonna be doing. They don't think of, this is maybe my problem, whatever it is, right? I'm a little bit older, so I tend to think a lot like that, you know. So even when I get pissed off at somebody, you know, maybe, you know, yell here and there, whatever it is. But 10 minutes afterwards, I started thinking, okay, was that right? That wasn't right, you know? And I think about it and I improve and I go back and I apologize for, you know, if there is something like that. Even if I said something wrong, I apologize. But these kinds of guys are, I mean, kids, whatever they are, right? Especially the younger generation, I see that, you know, I see that in the younger generation a lot. They don't have a lot of respect, you know, in a way, and they tend to think that everything you say to them is an insult.
Yep.
It's basically not, you know, and which is very wrong in my eyes. You know,
dealing with criticism.
It is what it is. Yeah, I mean, you gotta look at it in a different kind of light as well, because, you know, when we were, you know, couple of years back actually as well, we were playing really well together, you know, and there was a lot of people that understood stuff like that, and that's why a lot of people wanted classic WoW to return, because of the, you know, the memories of the community back then. You know, we were working together, we loved to play like this, and they took in feedback and they improved. They weren't insulted by everything, you know. It was different. And when they said they're gonna be putting classic back up again, I said that's not gonna be good, because it's not the same environment. It's not the same. No, it's
not anymore. People optimize the fun out of it.
Yeah, it's totally different. It's totally different. And, you know, yeah, so a lot of hate for it, because it's usually the younger generation that does that. You know, they just don't. They feel insulted for everything, even if you tell them 5 times, you know, in a calm manner, and then the 6th time you start maybe raising your voice a little bit because you're frustrated at it, because they don't listen to you, which is kind of disrespectful, right?
Yep.
And with that, they deem it as an insult to them. They don't think on how it affected you, maybe, you know, which is, yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, because, you know,
it's fine. I mean, it's your point of view on life, and it's purely subjective, and people should agree to disagree at that point. We should be old enough to handle stuff like that.
if you agree, fine. If you disagree, fine. Leave it in the comment.
I mean,
you know?
in the end,
I don't mind. I don't mind. In the end, you're gonna boost the algorithm either way. So.
and also if you look at it from a perspective that you are a dad, if you raise your kids like that, that's your choice. I mean, you did the kid, you made the kid. It's your right to do whatever you want with that kid. To some degree. I don't have kids. I cannot relate to that, but that's why I will not comment on all of those things, simply because I will never be in that situation. So that's fine. But to wrap this up, we looked at PvP, we looked at PvE, and there's not a lot of deviation when it comes to PvE content. I mean, you have dungeons, you have raids, you have like, I don't know, solo content, story, you have like smaller scale dungeons, like 3 people, for example, instead of 5, or whatever your group size is in that game. You have like those short bursts of PvE content where you have like a really difficult 5 or 10 man thing, and you just, those things are like 15 minutes long, and you have like 3 difficult boss fights back to back. Whatever it is, it's always the same concept of like, you fight in a certain environment and you have to deal with stuff. I wanna rapid fire you 4 different things that can be done in endgame as well in other games, and I want to see your reaction. Maybe you can even guess what game it is, simply because it would be too obvious.
Oh god! That's the same type of question that I got the last time. Okay, go. Shoot.
Yeah. So so the first game will be so obvious because you already know it. Another endgame activity is collecting outfits and mounts.
I mean, there's a lot of games like that, so you know.
You have people creating up to 50 characters to farm a stupid horse from an undead guy every week.
I mean, there's a lot of games like that.
I mean, come on! It's World of Warcraft, of course. Yeah, I mean, okay, when an undead horse can be... Yeah, okay. I should have mentioned it. It's really cold where you farm it. Maybe that would have worked. But
yeah, I knew where you're working at, because...
Yeah. I mean, obviously.
So I have that mountain, so I was just, trolling a little bit.
Another thing that can happen is, imagine you are having your very own edition of Animal Crossing within your MMORPG. You have an entire island to yourself, which you can decorate and do all the crafting and gathering things on there as well. You don't have to go out into your open world. You have all the things there as well.
So it's like an extended part of Pandaria.
I guess so, but it's like you can invite people to your island, you can decorate it on your own with everything you want to decorate it on. You can place houses there and furniture, and you can make crop fields and gardens and... like basically Animal Crossing, but it's within an MMORPG.
I mean, it could be interesting, especially for the PvE side.
It came into the game with astonishing reviews. People absolutely love it, and they have been looking for that for such a long time, because the housing situation in that game was always really scuffed, and it was really difficult to get a house on your own, simply because you had to compete against other players for the land to buy it, and the prices were abhorrent, and now you can actually have your own house.
What game is that?
Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, that's why I don't know it. Okay.
Yeah. But actually, the island paradise, as they called it, has been really great. I've seen some videos about it. I've checked a few reviews. I'm not actively playing Final Fantasy XIV as of right now. That's why I have to look it up. And to be honest, it looks really cool. I mean, it's not something I would get into anyway, since I'm not really a crafter-gatherer in any MMORPG. But just the concept of it, it's really, really well done. And, I mean, thinking about it, if it's not tied to any pay-to-win mechanic, looking at you, Argage, or if it's not needed for progression into either PvE or PvP, so it's just meant as a fun side experience, activity to do, where you can live out your creativity, absolutely fine, and they did a really good job on that. It's really, really, really well done. So would you actually look into that? I mean, you're a bit more onto crafting and gathering in MMORPGs as I am. Would that be something you would enjoy, actually? I mean, you could build stuff as well.
If you put it in the right game, yes. In Final Fantasy XIV, no.
Yeah.
Right?
I can see why. Yeah.
So if you kind of make like a hybrid of World of Warcraft, New World, and maybe, I don't know,
Valheim.
Elder Scrolls, maybe, I don't know, something that kind of hybrid, you know. And if you put PvP battles in and do naval like Sea of Thieves, and you do assaults like New World, right, on the continental part, you know, like every part of the map, whatever it is, just like I mentioned before.
Yep.
And you put the end game stuff like building your own kind of thing, like you just said.
Yep.
But would put it in style of what Valheim, right? That would be an amazing fucking game. I would probably just stop doing what I'm doing and just be a nerd all my life. But yeah,
okay.
That would be amazing, you know. That's like that's a Hail Mary, you know. That's not gonna happen anytime soon, you know.
I got two more things for you. First thing is, mounts are heavily emphasized within that game. There are actually races that you can do with those mounts to get really, really cool rewards. And based on how structuring and decorating your guild hall works in that game, people have been making the craziest and most fun and rewarding racetracks to race your mounts on against other players.
I have no idea.
Okay, first of all, do you think this is kind of a cool concept? To have like player-driven content in that regard?
Yeah. If you're looking at it as a player-driven content, yes. But racing horses?
No, it's not a horse. It's not a horse, actually. It's not a horse.
What is it then? Like mounts, whatever.
Yeah,
right?
Mounts. So basically, what mount they are using?
Not if that's the focus, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, would be like a part of the game. Then yes,
it's a part of the game. It's definitely a part of the game.
So it's just a part of the game. If it's the main focus, hell no. But,
no, it's not.
If it's a part of the game, yeah, it would be interesting because it gives you a little bit more freedom, you know.
Yeah.
And that's just what people are missing, basically. You're put in a box lately, you know. And I mean, you have been for the past couple of decades, actually.
Yep.
You know, it's just this is the content that you need to do. This is how you do it. Go from A to B, and then when you're finished, we're gonna put a new patch, and everything you did before is worthless, and do it again. You know, that's basically what they're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, there are exceptions to that. Like Guild Wars 2 has a horizontal progression where you just where they get new content added, but there's no gear progression to it. It just gives you more variety with like the different stat combinations that you can make more builds out of it. So yeah, there are exceptions, but they are not the rule. But those activities that I'm talking about, like right now, those are always side activities. Like it's not the main focus of endgame. It's always like, okay, like let's say I'm not feeling like doing battlegrounds or dungeons or raids or whatever today. I just wanna, I don't know, get into my island in Final Fantasy XIV. Just do that.
Yeah.
That's like it's a possibility that you can do. And the race thing is actually Guild Wars 2. They have a mount implemented, which is called the roller beetle. It's like basically a really big ball, and the beetle is on it, and it looks really funny. And how you actually unlock that thing as a mount is you have to build it a saddle, which is not sitting on the beetle. It's like hovering over it. It's like it looks like one of those hovercrafts. I don't know, like. It looks a bit sci-fi because it's built by the Azurians and their technology. So You basically start off the beetle and it starts rolling, and it has physics to it. If you roll uphill, it gets slower. If you roll downhill, it rolls faster. If you are really fast enough, you can actually roll over water. You can boost that thing, and you can drift with it, and you can, if you are in the air, you can do stunts to regenerate your endurance, which makes your next boost come up faster again. And I swear to fucking God that controlling that thing is a nightmare. It is really, really difficult to learn how to do those things. And if you look into those maps, it's really crazy how people are doing this, with drifting in the air, boosting, and then jumping at the precise time to get like enough time to do a stunt, so the next boost comes up right in time for your curve. They roll on the walls, they do loopings, the big jumps. It's ridiculous. It looks really, really cool. And even Asmongold had made a bunch of videos, and you can find a bunch of clips where he looks at videos of people doing those things in their guild halls, and he was like, World of Warcraft needs to copy this. This is straight up amazing. It looks really, really cool, and because they have such a heavy emphasis on mounts, they made it look really good and made it feel really good.
I'm really interested why actually Blizzard didn't implement stuff like that, you know, because there's a lot of games that have a little different ideas, and you could, even the best artists in the world in the past said that they don't have unique ideas. They just copy from other people and adjust it so it's theirs in a way, you know.
Yep.
So I don't get why game developers don't do that. Like, they see something good in Guild Wars, they see something good in New World. Why not just, you know, see the system? It's really good, right?
Yeah.
How can we implement that into our game? You know, kind of similar system, a little bit different, but it's still ours. You know, and it can't be deemed as stealing. It's basically, you know, just
yeah. I mean, World of Warcraft did it all the time previously. Blizzard did it all the time.
But they stopped, you know. It's kind of, you know, you're not developing the game. Either you want it to die or what's going on there. You know, it's sad, but they should do that. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you can take from other games and make something really, really good, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So before we talk about the last thing, just an explanation for you as to why it would be really difficult to implement those kind of mount things. So first of all, the mount system in Guild Wars 2 was designed from the get-go to be something really unique. You actually have skills attached to your mounts, some even specific to that mount. You have like a dismounting ability which opens up into combat and has different effects based on the ability you're using. You have skills like you jump off your mount into really high, and then you can start gliding from that point where you stopped actually ascending. You can change the health bars, so you're actually switching the health bar of your mount with your own. So if you're running through enemy territory and you're getting attacked, you can actually make your mount have more health. But if you are getting killed, then you're actually dead and not your mount is dead. You're just thrown off the mount in that case. You have unique stuff that only those mounts can do. Like the Raptor can traverse very long distances, like gaps. The Roller Beetle can actually, when boosted, crash through walls. The Jumper can jump really high, obviously. You have the some sort of ray, like stingray thing, where you just glide over water and he can hover and you can get over certain water levels or barriers. The Jackal can go through sand portals, so there's a lot of emphasis on what those mounts can actually do. And on the other hand, you have a huge emphasis on physics within Guild Wars 2 and the part of how abilities could work together. So if you, for example, have a firewall right in front of you created by an elementalist, and you throw your axe as a warrior through that firewall, it becomes a fire axe. The next hit of that, when the axe actually hits the enemy, it will inflict burning as well, and it counts as a combo action, and you can do all kinds of things. Like if you do an explosion within a fire field, you get a stacking damage buff. If you have a stealth field down, like for example, imagine you have like the shroud of a rogue in World of Warcraft, which hides everyone in that shroud, like that big circle where everyone turns invisible. And we had stuff like that as well in Guild Wars 2. and people would use an explosion, whatever it might be, explosive shot, or like they slam down their hammer, whatever counts as explosion, and they would spread all that stealth into everyone hit by that explosion. So you could like mass stealth people and just run through. You could give like massive regeneration to people. You could cleanse people massively with all those combo actions, because you have those physics interactions with all of those people. Like you have like a rapid fire ability from a hunter, which is stuff from World of Warcraft as well. You simply fire that, I don't know, through a darkness wall. It does life leech. Every arrow obviously heals you then at that moment, which is unique to that game. So implementing both the physics nature and unique mounts into World of Warcraft would be so much work, simply because let's start with mounts. You have like over 600 or 700 mounts in World of Warcraft. Good fucking luck. So yeah. It's really difficult.
They kind of started doing stuff like that, you know, the strider that's going
over. Yeah, they added the fishing strider. Yeah,
it's not a lot, but you know, some of those mounts they already have like ground mounts and flying mounts, you know. So why not just implement one added ability? Maybe that's basically it, you know.
Maybe. But yeah,
maybe you don't have to go wild on it, but you know, it's still unique on World of Warcraft as well, you know.
And
because
the last thing I have for you as a side activity is you are able to purchase a shit ton of houses, really big houses, small houses, whatever you want, villas, whatever it is, and decorate them until your PC can't handle it anymore. There is no actual limit. It's like either your PC can render it or it dies. Like you can
Minecraft.
No. it could work in Minecraft as well, but no. You can do all kinds of things. You can place down training dummies in there, crafting tables, teleport stations, decorations from, I don't know, killed raid bosses, PvP trophies. You can do, if you want to, jumping puzzles, racetracks, RP moments, RP events in there. Make a huge bonfire, build a light tower on the coast. I don't know. PvP arenas as well. Like there is so much you can decorate in those things.
There's a lot of those things actually remind me of Ark, you know, because you also have the trophies on the walls as well and shit like that, which is kind of cool. But I have no idea which game that is though.
Elder Scrolls Online.
Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
I haven't got
so for example,
part, I guess.
One of the most common houses I've seen when I played that game actively was a house that you got from the Necromancer expansion when you finished the story for free. That thing, if you would buy it right now, I think the last time I checked, it cost like $40 to buy that house. So you just got it for free when the expansion came out, and you just completed the main story of that expansion, which was not difficult. It took people like 3 or 4 hours, and you got like one of the biggest and most beautiful houses I've ever seen. And it can get so convoluted in those houses that some houses come with their own set of portals already, and you have like a really big house that takes you like almost 5 minutes to go from one point to the starting point to the end point, and then you just go to portals and you have like the same house size again, and it's just all in one. Like you get the complete package for whatever price you're buying it, or you get it for free, and you have like 3 big houses. One is standing on a cliffside, the one is standing on a beach, and the next one is standing in a cave, and they're all connected with portals. That's what you get for free at that moment, and you're like,
nice.
Oh, I need more decorations.
That was implemented with an expansion then?
No, the housing system was there before. Like the housing system was there, I think, with that they had an expansion for that, or like a small DLC which added all of those things. And you see on the map where all the houses are. You can actually visit them and see if you would like it, and you can own all the houses if you can afford them. It's either bought with gold, in-game gold, or bought with the premium currency, but you can own all the houses, and they actually serve a purpose or quality of life feature within the game world as well, because they're free teleport stations for you. You say, oh, I want to go to that dungeon and solo it. I have a house nearby, I'm just gonna teleport there instead of like taking the teleport cost or whatever. It's free teleports for you if you teleport to your house, and it's ridiculous. Like there's like, let me take a wild guess, at least like 200 houses in this game, all in different sizes and places. So it's like a housing decorator's dream, actually. Like not even Star Wars: The Old Republic can come close to that, simply because you have strongholds, and those strongholds are actually limited on the amount of housing you can do in there, like the amount of decorations you can place there, and they're bound to the planets. And if you have a planet that you really, really like and there's no house on it, tough luck then, I guess. But as Elder Scrolls Online is more a high fantasy, you almost have every environment known in there as well, every climate known. You have the desert, you have the north, you have the south, you have jungle, you have whatever you can imagine, and there's always at least one house in those environments. So you can go completely wild with your decorations and your creativity.
Because I don't remember the housing situation back when I played. I played it when it came out, so that was probably a bit later. But that's an awesome idea, actually.
That is really
That's
cool.
That's really good. Yeah, I kind of like the what was it called, Warlords of Draenor kind of thing, that you had your own kind of base.
Yep.
That was cool. That was cool. That was.
You will get a lot of shit for that. I trust you. If people would actually, World of Warcraft players hate the garrison. I do like it as well, simply because there's one simple reason why people do not like Warlords of Draenor is the garrison, and everyone was like secluded, and you never had to leave your garrison, and then the content drought, and I was like, okay, I can see the content drought. I can agree on that. That's objectively a bad thing, but
I'm just looking at the garrison.
Yeah.
Everything else is shit.
Yeah,
around
but
it, you know?
Even the garrison was hated upon because you never had to leave it, and I was always say, but you don't have to stay in it as well. Just leave it if you want to see other players. Okay, fine, if they're all staying in the garrison, tough luck then, but you don't have to stay in your garrison all the time because all the other people are doing it. Just leave it. That's what I did. I just never actually went into my garrison and stayed there for a very long time. Sure, did some quests, but then I was like, I need to see more. I'm gonna go out.
I was at the garrison. I was kind of building it up, as I remember. It was fun, you know, because I love to build. You know, so it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool in that kind of regard. But everything else in Warlords of Draenor, I wish it never happened. Let's say that. You know, that was. I would rather drill my knee. You know, but yeah. But the garrison part was interesting. It was different. It was new, which was kind of cool for me. And I love to build shit. It was kind of nice, you know, in a way. So if they are gonna give me shit for that, sure, whatever, you know, leave it in the comment. But yeah, that's kind of cool, and combine that with the Pandaren thing, you know, Pandaria thing, the farm shit, you know. If you implement that together and do a lot of other stuff like we were talking about from other games, you pull that in a little bit, you know, this is a totally different game. It's much more interesting. And you have a lot of variability on the PvE side, you know. And if you implement the PvP side that we were talking about, it's going to be a whole different game, you know. People were going to be playing that instead of Guild Wars or instead of Elder Scrolls or whatever it is, you know. Because you have a lot of shit to do, you know. It's not just, okay, gear up, get to the end content, then sit there until the next expansion, you know. And then everything that you worked for the past months is worthless. Again.
Yeah.
You know, which was basically why I didn't go into PvE a lot, because it was, you know.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
The PvP side was interesting to me, and I didn't mind. You know, I just played it to enjoy it. It wasn't such a gear collecting kind of thing, you know. I did collect the gear that I needed, you know. I didn't go as crazy as some people go to 2,200, rating, whatever it is. I think I got the max. What I got was like 1,800 or something like that, but it was getting way too competitive, and way too toxic at some point. So I kind of dialed down, and I just enjoyed the fighting in the battlegrounds and some arenas here and there, and that was basically it. I enjoyed that, but it wasn't as, I lost the gear. Oh God, what am I gonna do now? Well, I'm still, here. I can still go to battlegrounds. I can still have fun. I'm not worried about the eye level and stuff like that. So yeah. Would be great if they would implement the stuff that you just said.
That would be great. I mean, housing.
Yeah.
They said they
Housing.
will do housing in World of Warcraft, but it will take a while. But
There is one game in development that is supposedly doing a lot on the housing, and that's basically people, former Blizzard employees that are working on that game.
Ashes of
I
Creation.
don't know if you heard about Palia.
Palia. No, I haven't heard about that one actually. I need to Google that.
You should take a look at that. There's a whole trailer thing on YouTube, and there's actually a community on Discord. That they are basically talking about. They're basically giving people their creations and asking them, "What do you think about this? What do you think about?" So they're basically gathering feedback on everything, and they're telling people, "Oh, you're going to be able to do this. You're going to be able to do this. What else do you guys want to do in that game?" And they are starting to try and implement that, which is kind of cool. I was a part of that Discord for a while, but I didn't talk a lot, so I just dropped out later on. But when it comes out, I'm definitely buying that because it's a little bit cartoony, but it looks interesting.
Okay.
So the housing thing is going to be very prominent in that one, as I saw it. As I talked to the guys. It's going to be very, very good in that, and it's going to be interesting to see. Basically, it looks a lot like. It reminds me a lot of Warcraft because there's some creatures in there that are the Harvester, for example, right? There's a creature that looks similar to that, so you see the developers from World of Warcraft kind of, we were there, we're gonna do something similar but a little bit different because it's our idea, It's cool actually. It looks nice. I can't wait to see that in action.
I actually thought about one last thing that I want to see your reaction of. It's just for pure comedic purpose. Sure. There's a guy telling you, you're gonna have to quit your job. I'm gonna pay you $10 for every hour. Let's say 20 to make it more lucrative. I'm gonna pay you $20 for every hour that you're gonna play, but you have to at least play 12 hours a day. You can choose between two activities, and you can only do one of them for the next year, for an entire year. Either you're gonna play Warlords of Draenor for the entire year, at least 12 hours a day, or you're gonna do island expeditions in Battle for Azeroth. What would you pick?
Oh god, that's a tough choice. Oh man.
That's a pretty easy one for me, actually.
Yeah, you would do island expedition.
No, I would do Draenor. I absolutely love Draenor. I love the scenery, I love the music, I love the story, I loved how the classes played in that moment. I loved everything about it. I didn't really care about the content route because I had more than enough content for myself. I would play Draenor.
I'll be honest with you, I would do the same. Those fucking island expeditions, god damn, man. I don't know what they were thinking, but that was just fucking horrible.
You need more Azeroth. Group up all the mobs, kill the drill, kill the people, go again. 4 minutes. Just imagine, if an island expedition would take you 4 minutes, you would be able to... Oh boy. Let's say 5 minutes is a better thing. It was usually 5 minutes, so you could do 12 island expeditions an hour. So that would be 144 island expeditions in 12 hours. And do I want to do the math even further? Like that's just one day, 144.
For the next year, no, because that's gonna be a ticket to the insane asylum.
Oh yes, it would be, but it would be really funny. So
I mean, Jesus.
I mean, no. Okay, so you do 144 a day. So times 7, you would do 1,000 in a week. You do so times 4, you do it 4,032 in a month, and then you would do for the year 48,384. Okay, you're not gonna do that amount of it because you have to sleep, and that's just for 12 hours actually. So you still have enough time to sleep and eat and stuff. So it's just 12 hours. So if you would do it,
Wow.
but he said you have to do a minimum of 12 hours. You could do more. So if you would do 16, you would have to add 4 more hours. So yeah, no, fuck
But
that.
trust me,
Nobody's gonna do island expeditions.
Even Draenor, I probably wouldn't be able to do 12 hours. You know, I think the most that I did in World of Warcraft was like 7. That's max.
But those 48 hours or 48,000 island expeditions. Meaning you would get paid roughly around $1 million.
It's not worth it, you know. $1 million or the insane asylum. So,
I mean, just do half, so you can pay off the insane asylum.
I mean, yeah. Maybe get a better jacket, you know.
Anyways, we're already
more
90
padding on
minutes
the
into
walls.
this. So, I thank you all for watching. I hope this was as fun as it was for us. We will talk about something special in the next episode, which will be... you will see what it will be. Rex doesn't even know it yet. I will inform him probably.
I'm interested. I'm watching.
Yeah, of course you are not. Yeah, of course. Thanks again. I hope you have a great time. Stay safe. And until then, bye.
Yeah.